The Theorycraft dev team made a post about the future of their changes in Supervive, how they're going to tackle improving the game moving on, as well as calling out the doomers for the game and people who keep talking about the game dying and whatnot. Let's go ahead and talk about both, and I'll provide context for the situation as we go on. Let's go ahead and read the first part of the post. As you said before, we're on a path to building Supervive into a deep and engaging game for all. That means taking big experimental swings to get there. We also want to be testing changes more broadly to get a wider range of inputs. So moving forward, we're going to be letting as many people in for our beta development batch to try out the largest experimental changes, and then we'll be pushing survey feedback via email thereafter. So you have the opportunity to sign up for that playtest here. So basically what this means is outside of the early access going forward, they're going to have these small beta tests where they collect data from a group of people that they invite that you can sign up for by being in the Discord, and you can playtest potential future changes such as things they have here like changing the level cap from 9 to 15. So they've mentioned this before where they're going to take big strides to try and shake up the game and see what ends up sticking. Things like increasing the level cap all the way up to 15. They said here that they're going to remove the more rulesy aspects of the game, or at least attempt to, so that the game feels like it has a more clear condition to winning and it's a little bit more intuitive. This makes sense to me because as the game stands, I feel like there's a lot of systems you have to learn in the game, like the level cap system, that are pretty unintuitive. They don't really make sense if you come from other MOBA backgrounds, such as like League of Legends, for example, right? You always want to be on those minions, you always want to be hitting them, and you always want to be getting those levels. If you miss a minion wave, that's a big deal. Whereas in this game, the second you kill a few minions, you hit level 4 day 1, there's nothing for you to do outside of contesting bosses and running around and fighting people. Or at least that's how it seems to a new player. Obviously, there are much better ways of actually getting powerful, but they're not intuitive, and I think that's one of the big problems that they're trying to tackle here. So part 2 of this just talks about the changes that they actually made for the playtest itself. Now, this gives us an insight into what they're going to be doing into the future. So we talked about the level cap being increased here, but we can go over the rest of this post as well. In an effort to remove some of our more rulesy systems and establish clearer paths to victory, we're testing and removing the per day level cap and increasing maximum level for all hunters and increasing equipment upgrade power. What we're hoping is to see that teams have more understandable paths to building a lead, when in doubt farm for levels and upgrades, and others can better understand how they're behind. The changes are as follows. You'll no longer be level capped depending on the day. Instead, monsters will always give EXP, with higher level monsters giving a lot more. Maximum level cap has been increased from 9 to 15. All abilities can now be leveled from 3 to 4, with the special bonus unlocking at 4. So things like Ghost Laser, getting the 30% CDR on hit, stuff like that are being unlocked at 4 now. But this is just a playtest, keep that in mind. Luna Celeste, Void have received new level 4 upgrades. That's a good thing because a lot of upgrades in this game suck. You now gain 10 ability power per level, with base ability power being reduced. Base equipment ability power and health has been reduced to 66% of its previous values, while upgrades have been increased to 200% of previous values. So the things that they're playtesting here just show us that they're trying to make it so it's more readable when you're behind. So hopefully rather than things like powers and whatnot determining whether or not you're going to be behind, it's going to be things like you're level 6 and the enemy is level 8. And so they just have better skills than you. They just have better stats than you. Maybe their weapons are all red, and so they have better upgrades from that as well. They're trying to make it so these are the more clear ways that enemy teams are ahead. Right now, you're 6, the enemy is 6, and the only real ways to tell if you're ahead are going to be powers, gear, souls, and there's just too many systems that are unintuitive for people coming into this game to see if you're ahead. If you go to League of Legends, for example, it's pretty easy to tell if you're ahead because you just press tab, you look at the items, you see the enemy has an Infinity Edge, and you're sitting on a pickaxe and a crit cloak. Basically, you're in hell. I haven't actually tested these changes myself, but I do like the direction that they're bringing this in, and I think it's overall probably going to be a healthy change for the game. Now, in the third part of this, they do go on to talk about why they're shifting towards this and then the general community vibes. Real talk today. I know it can be frustrating when your chosen game isn't doing well. I also know many of you have different opinions as to what we should do to improve the game. Other discussion and criticism is fine, but we're now getting to the point where a few things are happening. Some of you Gigadoomers are shutting down all positive opinions to complain about the game. Folks are leaking change lists and misconstruing their changes and their intentions for their own agenda. The frustration is turning into conspiracy theories as to why we're doing what we're doing, lying about data, disliking people, etc. We're trying to make the game better, and we believe we need to both make the game more accessible and engaging in the first 10 hours and deeper for the next 100 to 1,000 hours. To the best of our capabilities, we're making changes towards this goal. Sometimes that means targeting certain audiences over others to ensure the game stays up, but everyone is important. We won't be perfect, but we also need to be very bold and experimental with our changes because the current game is not sufficient. We are trying to communicate our intentions. but we're also trying to do a lot in a very short amount of time. So we hope we'll come along with an open mind. If you're struggling to stay positive or constructive and find yourself being too frustrated in general chats, please take a break. We still hear your feedback, but being 24/7 online arguing with others isn't helpful for making Supervive a great game. That's not really helpful in general, honestly. You probably shouldn't do that. Overall, I think changes like this are a good step forward. I do agree that being Giga Doomer about the game, just constantly shitting on it about basically everything it's ever done and seeing a bunch of negativity is pretty bad for the game. That's not to say that constructive feedback or whatnot, or feedback in general, or even being like upset about the game is bad. All this stuff is like perfectly fine and healthy and normal for games. But I do notice this a lot too, where it just feels like anytime anyone says something nice about the game, you just see 30 people popping up and just being like, what about this, right? And they just complain 24/7, and it kind of kills the vibe. So I see why they're going for this. Personally, I'm not a fan of that. But I've called out multiple people for doing the same exact thing, not necessarily because I don't understand where they're coming from, but just because it makes a really boring environment for me, and I don't want to see that. That's not to say I'm super positive either. There's a bunch of changes in this patch I don't like. I don't like the fact that they took 30 billion years to hotfix the exotic boss to not be level 5. That was super cringe. I don't even like the fact that it's in the game, honestly. I don't think you should get an exotic that early. I don't like that ranked still feels pretty 4-stacky. Not a big fan of that. I don't like the Brawl is still by far the best character in the game. I don't like how certain characters just feel super mobility creeped and whatnot, but those are all things that I can complain about, but at the same time, not just like shit on any positive aspect of the game, right? There are a lot of great changes that have happened in the last patch, and I think overall, I would say 90% of what happened in the last patch was great for the game. Anyway, that's a quick recap of what the Supervive devs have said. This was like 2 days ago or something, so I'm a little bit late to it. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. I have a bunch of Supervive content on here. You can check me out live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Rhinne. Until next time, take care.